the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission out here in Cedar Key. And so, as I mentioned earlier, he's going to give you sort of the lowdown on the things they do management-wise and the resources they manage, and give you a tour of their facilities here. So,
I am in the research administrator of this lab. I'm in the fisheries. There's different aspects of FWC all over the state. We're just one of the many field labs around the state. And in particular, I'm in the Fisheries Independent Monitoring Division. And what that is we go out there and collect our own data, our own fisheries data, whereas the Fisheries Dependent part of FWC, they go out to boat ramps. They're dependent on the fishermen, so they go out to boat ramps and they get the information the fishermen are bringing to them, like the catches they're making, both commercial and recreational. So the commercial guys will bring in their catch to a fish house, and they'll go in there and measure the fish, take the otoliths from the fish, which I'll talk to you about in a minute. That's what we do too. It is a way of aging the fish. There's these little, what they call ear bones. They grow inside their head, and they grow like the rings of a tree. So when you section them and cut them open, polish them, you can look at our microscope and count those rings and know how old the fish are. And that's really important to look at the age structure of the fish, the population, to see if there's an issue with the population. If you're missing a couple ages here and there's not age 2 or 3, there's a problem later on. There might be a whole gap of where you don't have fish that people can catch. So you're going to shut down the fishery, let it repopulate, and smooth out. So what we do in the Fisheries Independent group, like I said, there's different labs around the state, and we all do the same thing. Every month we have so many sites we have to sample with different gear types and different habitat types to get a broad range of fish species in those habitats. And we use different nets, some of the bigger mesh and a big net, and we'll show that today. We have a smaller net with smaller mesh. So the big net catches the bigger fish, smaller net catches the smaller fish. So we get a broad range of ages, which is, I said, important to get an idea of what's going on in the whole population. We have fish here, and some of you probably know the fish, but we have standard culls where we take those fish back for redfish, trout, snook, and sheepshead. We bring a lot of fish back to the lab to process after we catch them. But those fish in particular, and those are highly fished species, so the ones we want to keep track of the most. We come back, and I'm going to take you down into the hallway and see what we do. But we'll take mercury samples from the fish, like I said, the ear bones to get the age of the fish. We'll take a spine from some fish sometimes by comparing the otolith, which is the ear bone, and the spine. Sometimes they can validate that you can take a spine from a fish, a non-lethal way of ascertaining their age. The spine grows the same way. It has like rings as well, and you can not kill the fish and still know what the age of the fish is. It's not as accurate, that's why they don't like to use it, but there's a way of doing that. There's other groups that look at the gut contents of fish, so we'll take some fish species that they want to look at, grab those, basically cut them open, take the guts of the fish, and we put them in a bag for some other. Most of the lab samples that we get processed down at the main lab, which is down in St. Petersburg. But there's a whole range of things that FWC does, and different levels of education needed to get to those. I know Dom and me talk about the careers. For instance, I have a PhD. You don't really need a PhD for this job that I have, but it does involve writing grants and writing reports, stuff PhDs might do. But a lot of people here, a couple guys have masters. Some people don't have any, have bachelor's degrees. Some people don't have any degrees at all. It's just, of course, it just changes the pay level. But there's a whole range of jobs available at FWC. And if you guys are interested, we're always looking for volunteers, and we'll get to that in a second. But after you guys pull some nets, you probably won't be as interested. But if you are, then we'll still take volunteers, and you can learn more. Neristomus xanthoris.
Spot?
Spot. It's got a little spot right here, that's why they call it a spot. The standard length, so measure the nearest millimeter. So we have 200 millimeters, would be 20 right here. So you got see here that standard length with that, see the crease in the tail? That's the standard length right there, wherever that crease is. So you got almost 290 exactly. And you got fork length, it's got a good fork on this fish. You got 328 about, 327. Sorry, yeah, 327. And then you just pinch the tail. You get total, it's 362.
And at every site, we measure water quality of the surface, up to 0.2 meters. And then from there, every meter until we hit the bottom. And we don't measure many parameters in, say, water management district. We're all about water. But we do temperature, of course, and salinity, pH, conductivity, and dissolved oxygen in the water.
That's a plank that you're walking on. What kind of shrimp are these?
Arrow shrimp?
Nah, he's got tiny claws.
That looks like a little grass shrimp.
Yeah.
Palomines, Fugio.